Today on entitled Parents. My son can touch the cotton candy machine and you are stopping him. I, 19 male, was volunteering at a local community picnic. I didn't have much choice in my position, but I was placed on the snack station. This station had snow cone machines, cotton candy machines, and a popcorn maker. It was not the most high-tech, but it was still nice. I was working with just one other person and we had some traffic. There were some incidents, like kids adding extra flavoring to their popcorn or throwing ice at each other, but it was nothing that wasn't manageable. Classic kids stuff. Now enter EK, around 5 years old. He ordered a cotton candy. I served it to him and he ate it and left. He later comes back and asks how it's made. So I picked him up and asked my friend to make it so I could show it to him. Then he asks if he can touch it, the heating element that spins and spits out the floss. I tell it is really hot and demonstrated it with a small drop of water. He then says his hand is not water so he can touch it. I told him again that it was too hot and he did not like that. He then starts crying, but I tell him it's not worth finding out, and instead he can scoop a bit of sugar and have another cotton candy for free. He takes his candy and heads out, still crying. Now comes EM. My son told me you didn't let him have the cotton candy. Me, I'm not sure about that because I gave him two. One of which he made himself. EM to EK, then what's wrong? EK, he didn't let me touch it. EM. Oh, that's it. EM turns to me. EM, just let him touch, he's a kid. Me, ma'am, it's a really hot heating element. It melts sugar instantly, so I can't let him touch it and risk his hand burning. EM, you have your hand near it, and you are doing fine, it's just for a few seconds. Me. No, I can't allow that. I'm sorry. EM to EKK. EM, well, I'm sorry. Maybe another day. EK, I want to touch it though. EM, another day when he's not here. EM and EK then walk away with EK consistently nagging and tugging on her clothes. My friend and I decided it was done, but he chose to tell the event organizer. God bless him for that. Around 20 minutes later, the staff told us to turn off the equipment for a while so that we could have our meal. We put on a sign, turned off the equipment, and headed over. The events after this are from outside sources because I did not see this. Cotton candy machines are still hot even after you turn them off. Metal is still metal, and metal conducts heat. Around 5 minutes after we left, EM lifted her kid to touch it. One of the event attendants then screamed at her to stop, which shocked her, and she accidentally forced her son's hand onto the heating element. Cue EK screaming. I heard it, ran out of the nearby tent and checked on him. The event organizers and other attendants brought a first aid kit and helped him. As this is happening, EM starts blaming me for the occurrence. EM, why didn't you turn it off? Me, I did. You can see the power is off and it is disconnected. Event manager, EVM. EVM, I don't think they are at fault. I saw you picking up your kids and they told me you wanted to do this before. EM, well, he didn't tell me. It would have burned his hand. EVM, there are also signs on the side of the machine saying that you should not touch it. EM, well, if I let him touch it first, this wouldn't have happened. EVM, are you hearing yourself? Your kid just burned his hand, and you wanted them to let him touch it? At least this time we are all here and you are with him. EM, oh, so you are blaming me. I paid for the ticket, you should be on my side. My son burned his hand and you think I wanted him to do it? I wanted him to be able to see the tool. He's just tall enough to see it. EVM, so you asking them to let him touch it before it didn't happen? Him, me, telling you that it is hot didn't happen? The warnings on the device don't exist? You lifting your son and pressing his hand didn't happen? EM, if I weren't scared, then it wouldn't have happened. EVM, you shouldn't have had him in that position to begin with. The argument then went on for a while before EM backed down and took EK to, presumably, a hospital. EVM and most of the attendants were on our side. I will see what the aftermath of this will be in a few days. But damn, wanting to touch a heating element was not something I even imagined was a possibility, let alone from a parent. P.S. At the end of the event, both of us, my friend and I, were given some marinated chicken to take home for our transgressions. For our next story. I'm an adult, I don't have to put up with this crap. Backstory. I, 26 female, my parents were teen parents and broke up when I was a few months old. They had a nasty custody battle, and my childhood was high conflict because of their behavior. My mom unalived when I was 23. As I said before, things were very high conflict in my childhood, and my stepmom at many times was the heart of that conflict. My stepmom was a huge source of conflict because of how evil she was growing up. I lived with my dad primarily growing up, so she was always around. My dad and I had a falling out but made up when I was 23, a few months after my mom unalived in a car accident. I forgave him for a lot of neglectful behavior and how he let his wife treat me growing up. This made my paternal grandma very happy. Fast forward to this last year during Christmas time. I actually hung out with my stepmom and went shopping for presents for everyone. We had a great time. We went to lunch and things turned sour. She asked me, "Do you know why your dad and I never built a house? Did he ever tell you?" I said no. She then goes, "Well, we were forced to sell the piece of land and just buy a house instead. We weren't going to be able to afford it because of all your court fees." She's referring to the custody case that started when I was 5 years old. This statement really took me aback. I didn't say much. Later that evening I called my paternal grandma and asked her, "Why didn't my dad build a house?" My grandma told me it was because my stepmom wanted too extravagant of a house, and they wouldn't be able to afford it. I told her what my stepmom had said about the court fees. My grandma was furious because she said that she had given my dad a large portion of the money for the legal fees. I decided to just let this situation go and not mention it to my dad, because I knew my grandma was at the end stages of liver failure and didn't have much time left with us. She was really happy my dad and I were getting along. My grandma passed away this April. Well, now it is July and my dad's cousin has now told me all of the BS my stepmom says about me and how she brags about how she treated me growing up. She had a separate fridge just for me because she didn't want me contaminating her son's food. That was one of the things she bragged about among tons of other things. According to this cousin, my dad wasn't there when these things were said, but he was made aware and didn't do much. Well, I've just effing had it. I've forgiven him for all the crap he's done. I've sat on the whole "we didn't build a house because of your court fees" BS, and now this? I am 26 years old with my own kids, and I don't need to put up with this crap anymore. I have put up with too much hurt from my dad, and I don't feel as if I need to continue letting this kind of treatment in my life anymore, especially since my grandma is gone now. It is just very difficult because my mom is gone. He's all I have left, even if he's not much. I'm just so sick and tired of the hurt and disrespect. If I am being honest, he does not bring much value to my life. My kids somewhat know them but aren't super attached, like a traditional grandparent-grandchild relationship. How do I approach a serious talk with him? Do I cut contact? If I do, how do I do it? Please give me ideas of full sentences to say. I am lost how to approach this from a place of logic and not emotions. Let's dive into our next story. Parents tracking me, 19 female, constantly, and I'm tired. I don't know what to do. This post might be a little venti at this point, but I just wanted to get it off my chest. I'm in my second year in community college, living with my parents and saving up while paying part of rent and insurance payments. They use the Find My tracker, which I understand using for safety reasons and to be relieved knowing where I am. However, it feels much more intense than just having my location. They constantly ask where I am, texting me within mere seconds after I leave a store. I need to give them the exact location and address of where I will be. I am prohibited from changing my location. For example, moving from the mall to a restaurant. And show them on Google Maps exactly what the location looks like. I've lost plenty of friends in high school due to this, but in college it seems like overkill. I've tried bringing this up to them, but every time I get hit with, "Are you doing something wrong? Why do you think I have to be doing something wrong to want some privacy?" I have never broken their trust before, let alone even had a chance to do so if I wanted to. LOL. I just feel so drained and depressed. I don't want to go out anymore. The anxiety has overwhelmed me, and I can't go out with friends or my boyfriend without having a breakdown, and plenty of times I've had panic attacks before asking to go somewhere. I don't know what to do. Our last story for today. I feel defeated and stuck. I want my parents to move out. My parents have been irresponsible my whole life. I've been homeless and in many uncomfortable housing situations, including living with extended family, homeless shelters, cars, or squatted housing on and off throughout my childhood. During my senior year of high school, I lived in a motel. I turned 18 in late 2021 during the pandemic while my parents and two of my siblings lived in the motel. I was in my first semester of college and had to return to the motel due to financial struggle. During that time, my dad had told us that the weekly rent owed to the motel was paid through a COVID rental assistance program. However, they would spend their money on gambling, narcotics, and alcohol and never buy food, causing us to lose a lot of weight. Two of us were in college, and they would take the relief money we received and spend it too. Then they would criticize us for not having jobs, even though my mom didn't have a job either, and one of my siblings had to quit theirs because my parents would take their money while they were sleeping, and it got to a point where they couldn't afford transportation to the job. On top of that, I had no birth certificate or social security card, because they lost it when I was like 5 and never replaced it, so I couldn't get a job until I got them. It took months, but my siblings and I figured out how to receive my documents and got jobs to save up to move away from our parents because their irresponsible ways were keeping us trapped in the motel with them. It was really hard to save and keep money from our parents. At first, my dad would tell me how he made more money than me, and that my money from my near minimum wage job meant nothing, letting me know constantly that on a bad week, he made twice as much as me. Then he and my mom would ask for money. They would get mad when we asked them why or said no. It was hard with them taking our money, but after 5 months of working, we had enough money to start looking for a place. We decided not to rush since we also wanted money to save for a car. We told our parents we were looking for a place, and they said that they would also look for themselves. While still touring houses, we were given an eviction notice, and it turned out my dad had been lying about paying rent. We had no clue because he did say the COVID program was over and would ask us for money to cover it. My siblings and I decided to just move into any place we could. We got accepted for a 3-bedroom house for a good price in today's economy, and we had our move-in day set just before the eviction date. Just before we moved in, my dad asked if he and my mom could move in with us for just a year and said that he would even pay half of the rent, and we could split the other half 3 ways. We didn't think he'd actually do that, but we agreed because we felt bad and didn't want to them be homeless, and we figured we could use their car some more. I ended up getting a new car the same week we moved, and then my parents' car needed some work. So we ended up splitting the rent 4 ways, me, 2 siblings, and dad. Then he crashed his car and never got it fixed because he had no insurance. After that, it continued to get worse. My mom would take my car, lie about where she's going, and not bring it back in time for us to go to work. My dad yells at me for asking for the money in weekly increments but never has it all at the end or beginning of the month. They refuse to put money in the grocery pile but always eat the groceries. They will take things from my room without asking. They never put gas in my car after using it. They argue constantly. I was taking classes at a local community college but had to stop because I had to work more hours to cover for all the things that they do and don't pay for. This is just a small list of all the things they do that affect me. My siblings and I want to stay in this house because the rent is so affordable, and its location is extremely convenient for its distance from shopping, recreation, and my job. I can work 25 hours a week and go to school while living comfortably. How do I get them to move out? Or do I just accept that my siblings and I will have to move and leave them homeless? And those are all the stories we have for today. See you tomorrow.